Hi guys, this is Leela. Welcome to my channel leelawebdev. So in this video we will learn about the useEffect dependency array. So we have seen about the useEffect hook, right? So when we need to use the useEffect hook and all those things we have understood. Now let's try to see the second argument which we are trying to pass it as an array. So let's try to see about the dependency array. So we have discussed about the useEffect dependency array a few times already. But we don't know yet what it is actually does and how it works. By default, effects will run after each and every render. However, that's almost never what we want. But we can change this default behavior by passing a dependency array into the useEffect hook as a second argument. So here what I am supposed to explain is effects always will run after each and every render. So when the rendering is completed, the effects will run after each and every render. So but if you don't want that type of behavior, then we can change that behavior using a dependency array, which we can pass it as a second argument. By default, so fine. Without the dependency array, React doesn't know when to run the effect. So that is the thing. So without dependency array, if you don't have a dependency array, React doesn't know when to run the effect. But if you do specify the effect dependencies by passing in the dependency array, the effect will be executed each time that one of the dependencies changes. Effect dependencies are state variables and props. So what are those dependencies arrays? It contains about state variables and the props that are used inside the effect. And the rule is that each and every one of these state variables and props must be included in the dependency array. So that is the main thing. So consider this example. So let's say that this is an example. Here I am having something like title, which is a props. Okay. And here I am having the constant user rating, which is a state variable. And I am having an useEffect hook. So here I am having a function. So if not of title, return. So here I am using document.title. I am trying to update the title and I am returning this one. So let's leave it that one. So here the second argument is title and user rating. Why? Because we are using the title and user rating in the function. So those two are the dependencies. Here in the example, the effect uses the title prop and the user rating state variable. We can clearly see that the title is a prop and the user rating is a state. Therefore, both of them must be included in the dependency array. So the effect function depends on these variables to do its work. And therefore, we need to tell React about them. Otherwise, if the title or the user rating changes, React will not know about this change and therefore it won't be able to re-execute the effect code. So the effect and therefore it won't be able to execute the re-execute. This leads to a bug called stale closure. And we will talk about this what a stale closure is and also about some more rules about the dependency array after some videos. But for now, we will understand why the dependency array is so important for the useEffect hook. We can say that the useEffect hook is an event listener, that is listening for one or more dependencies to change. Something like we can say that useEffect is like an event listener. And when one of the dependencies does change, useEffect will simply execute the effect again. So a bit like a regular event listener. Don't think that is an easy event listener. So according to that one, so how it behaves, I am trying to tell you. In our example, where we have the title and the user rating dependencies in the array. So whenever the title or the user rating changes, the React will execute the effect again. So it will run the code one or more time, which will in turn update the document title. Effects are used to keep a component synchronized with some external system. So some system that lives outside of our React based code. And if we think that exactly what is happening here. So the state and props of our component are now in fact synchronized with an external system, which is in this case the title of the document. Now updating the title in some other way will of course not magically update the title. The synchronization only works in one way, but that's not really the point. The same actually happens with state updates and we will say that the UI is in sync with the state. So the useEffect truly is a synchronization mechanism. Whenever a dependency changes, the effect is executed again and the dependencies are always state or props. What happens to the component each time when the state or props changed or updated? The component will be re-rendered. So this is the concept we already know. This means that effects and the lifecycle of a component instance are deeply interconnected. That's why when the useEffect hook was first introduced, many people thought it was a lifecycle hook rather than a hook for synchronizing the component with a side effect. We can use the dependency array to run effects when the component renders or re-renders. Let's look at the three types of dependency arrays. The first one is the useEffect function, and it has a dependency of XYZ. So here effect that useEffect is synchronized with the X, Y, and Z. So this one runs on the mount. The function will runs on the mount and re-renders triggers by updating X or Y or Z. This effect will be executed each time when the component instance is being re-rendered by an update to X, Y, or Z. But if some piece of state or props is updated, then this particular effect will not be executed. Other than X, Y, Z, if other state executed means is changed means this particular effect will not be executed. And another type is useEffect function, and it's an empty array. So effect synchronizes with no state or props, and therefore it will run only on the mount. If an effect has no dependencies, it doesn't use any values that are relevant for rendering the component. So therefore it's safe to be executed only once. So the last one, finally, what I want to tell you is the useEffect of function. Finally, if you have no array at all, we already know that the effect will run on every render, which is usually bad and not what we want. Now if the effect runs on every render, that basically means that the effect synchronizes with everything. So essentially every state and every prop in the component will be dependencies in this case. Let's look at when exactly effects are executed during the render and the commit process. Let's see the timeline. So here what I wanted to explain you is, so when this exactly effects will be executed, so during the render process or the commit process. First one is the mount, initial render. So when the initial rendering happens, the whole process starts with the mounting the component instance. After that, result of the rendering is committed to the DOM, and finally the DOM changes are painted to the screen. So these are all the concept we already have learned about this one. So now effects will be executed after the browser has painted the component instance on the screen. So here you need to understand, effects will be executed after the browser has painted the component instance on the screen. That's why we can say that effects run asynchronously after the render has been painted to the screen. And the reason why it works like this is because the effects may contain long running process. If the effects execute before paint process, it would block this entire process, and users would see an old version of the component for way too long. Why that effect does not execute during render is that if it sets state, then a second additional render will be required to display the UI correctly. So that is the reason. This is one of the reasons why you should not overuse the effects. So here, so what you need to do is you should not overuse the effects. Why? Because whenever you are trying to use the effects and change the state means again an initial render will be happened. So that is the reason we will be not using. So that means here you need to understand that after rendering and the committing, then the effect will be executed. So if you want to execute during the render process means, then we have another effect that is called as a layout effect, which React discourages that one using it. But I am trying to explain you that layout effect is also there, which is different from the regular effect. Effects always executes after the rendering and the commit phase. So this is all about the useEffect thing, about the dependency array. If you have any doubts or any suggestions, please post the comments below to this video. And if you like this video, please do support me by subscribing to my channel. Thank you.